All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the full house, and we are back. Yes. The link was trying to perform a while earlier, and I don't know who is trying to mess things up. But as you can see, I've got a full squad right now. I've got the best of Zambian basketball right here. You know, Coach Harry, I think earlier on I introduced him. And as you can see, I also talked a little bit about um, Mulenga Mumba, popularly known as Kobe or Coach Bruget. I don't even know where Coach Bruget came from. But anyway, I think we'll give him a chance to explain later on. I also have Coach David Msonda there from Material Magic. He was in Nairobi, I think last week. And as all of you are aware, Magic was taking place in the Elite 16 of the Basketball Africa League. But what we want is to basically just look at the whole tournament holistically and get perspectives from the best minds in the game. And these are people that have not only, watched the Basketball Africa League, they've participated in it at the coaching level. And Kobe, I think you played. Did you play, Kobe? You did play, right?
No, I was only coaching at the time.
So even Kobe was coaching anyway. By then, he's finished. So we understand. Okay. So don't worry about that. Anyway, he's my big brother. Yeah. So basically, gentlemen, I think to just start the conversation, basically, I will not start with you, David, because you're coming from the BAL. So allow me first of all to just start with Kobe. What is your, or I would say, what is your take? You had the privilege to watch some games, if not all the games. But what is just your summary? What is your take on the tournament that was in Kenya?
Yes, I watched all the games that were being played, and I must say we are seeing a big difference in terms of basketball that's being played maybe southern part of Africa and compared to maybe these other regions. Um, for Zambia, I don't know if I would say the tournament is another eye opener at that level, but
Mm-hmm.
it gives us an opportunity to see where we need to go to as Zambian basketball. How much we really need to work hard and try to get our basketball to the level that we are seeing. So a lot to learn, and a lot that we need to improve.
Okay. Indeed, a lot to learn and a lot of things that we need to improve on. So I'll come back to you later on to be able to break it down. What are some of those specific things that you yourself feel we should learn, and what are some of the things that we should improve on? So have that at the back of your mind. I'll come back. Let me go to Coach Harry over there. Harry, you had a chance to watch the games as well. I know that you perhaps did not watch everything, because I remember you and I had a conversation on this. But from the little or whatever it is that you had a chance to watch, what is your view?
Okay, thanks, Winson. Yes, I didn't watch all the games, but I watched some of the games and some of the Matero Magic's game. And well, my observations, I'll concur with Coach Mulenga. The preparation from Magic, Matero Magic, was also gave us a platform to learn something, new, and also to look at areas where we need to improve as a country. Um, from my end, I visited Material Magic's practices a number of times, and I think they were well prepared for the tournament. The tournament might just have provided a different level. But yes, I should take this opportunity also to say kudos to Magic for representing us and also for giving us a platform to learn a lot.
Okay, interesting there. So, as we keep up with the conversation, I'm going to ask each and every one of you to always remember, if you're not on the floor, yes, like what Coach Harry has done, So please make sure you mute the microphone and unmute it only when you're on the floor so that we kill the feedback sound that is in the background. And now we go to Coach David. Coach David, you were in the thick of things, as they say. You were on the battlefield in Kenya. First and foremost, how was it like just being in Kenya? How was the experience?
Go to the Elite 16, it's like you're just going there for the first time. Yeah, it's not the first time that Material Magic has been to Elite 16. This is like the third time, but it's like every time you go there, it's something different because each team brings in something different, a whole dynamic. You see the players that you watch in the actual league, the BAL league, come through and play the game, and they just bring a different dynamic of how the game is played. But from what I've seen, we're not really that far apart with most teams in the southern region that we battle with when it comes to the qualification stages. Because why I say so is with what happened to Material Magic, I feel to say it was more of a stage fright as opposed to the way the game is played. Yeah, once we eliminate the stage fright, as you saw in the last game that we played against South Sudan, the Foxes, you'd notice to say we have what it takes. So for me, I feel to say it all boils down to how we are exposed out there. Because right now, truth be told, when it comes to international basketball, I think in Zambia we actually play fewer games when it comes to international games, and that plays a big part in the way we compete and just the way the players respond. And if you see every team that goes out there plays basketball, it all starts with the first game. It will be a bit slow, and then each game that comes, players start responding. They start getting used to everything. So I feel to say we just need to get out there, expose the players, and we'll see a different kind of level of basketball. But otherwise, it was a great experience, and you know I learned a lot, and I'm still learning. Wendy, your mic.
You've obviously answered. Yeah, yeah, I've just unmuted it. So I was saying, you've obviously answered the question that everybody wanted to ask you. When I posted that picture on Facebook, the post, everybody was like, okay, we want Magic to give us answers. So stage fright is one of the first answers that I think everyone has gotten this evening. So I've posted the link on in the comment section for those of you that would like to join the conversation via video conference to ask your question to any of the coaches here. And remember, it's a Bal Elite 16 postmortem. Okay, so you are free to ask Coach Harry, Coach Mumba, and Coach David any other basketball related question. No cap on this particular platform. So now let me get to Coach Mumba. You mentioned something, about some of the things that we can learn. What specifically are some of those things that you feel as a country we can learn?
First, let me start from here. I was privileged to see how Magic was practicing. So, from a preparation point of view, I would really give them 100%. They really left no stone unturned. I attended almost maybe 90% of their training sessions. The guys were really putting in the work to prepare for the game. So when we look at how they performed, I feel like Coach David is saying the stage may have frightened our players, where we are seeing them playing with less composure. and then it takes a long time. Like the first game that they played, would expect maybe for the first few minutes the players would be a bit jittery, but then they will regain their confidence. So we see that the stage, our players got a bit of a stage fright. So maybe one aspect of basketball that we really haven't tackled in Zambia is the psychological part of basketball, having the players prepared mentally. So that's an area maybe that we should also look into. The teams that are going out of the country competing in these competitions, having a sports psychologist would probably be a plus to the team, just to prepare the players mentally. Then the other issues I would look at maybe uh, the composition of the team in terms of the guys that you are bringing in to help the team. I don't know if uh, I can say we are maybe not choosing or we are not getting the elite players, the players that are tried and tested at such levels. I'm not really sure if we are getting the best of them to come and help the team. Because for local talent, I think we have grabbed all the talent that is there and putting them on one team to go and compete. So maybe those are areas where we can look at how best the players that we are bringing in are combining with the team, and so that the team plays very well.
Okay, so Coach Harry, an important point has been raised here. The issue of psychological preparation, something that maybe our Zambian players don't pay attention to. But from your perspective, you were at Bal. Tell us, from the Monali Sun's perspective, did you experience the same issue of stage fright? How do you think it can be overcome? Were there players in your team, for example, that maybe began with stage fright and all of a sudden improved and were able to show that they belong on the stage?
Well, yes, we participated in the fourth edition of the Road to Bao that was hosted in Botswana, and I would agree with Coach Sonda when it comes to stage fright with our players, especially the local players. Um, the answer is yes. A lot of our players had the stage fright, and as the tournament progressed, they became better. Though for us, we won the first two games and lost the last game, but still the performance from most of the players was below average in the first two games, especially the local players. And like Musonda had alluded earlier to say, a lot of factors come in, especially with our local players. The issue of less games. Um, basketball is taught by playing it, and all the players become better by playing it more. So the less games that we have in our local league has a huge impact on the performance of our players in terms of flow management, uh, all the psychological effects, ball mastering, all those effects come to play. So yes, I would agree our local players do have stage fright. But also, my concern is also on the imports that we bring in to beef up our teams. Um, we have four slots for international players at the Road to Bow. At Elite 16, I'm here to agree with Sona that is it five at Elite 16, but at Road to Bow, I think it's four, two Americans and two African players. Yeah, also my concern is from our experience, we didn't have we only had two Americans. Did they have a stage fright? I would say yes, they did. Um, Was the caliber of the players good enough? It's a question that I bet to answer. Also looking at the Material Magic team, the recruitment, we saw stage fright from the local players, and we saw other local players performing better than the international players. So it's a whole mix of feelings on how we can address this issue of stage fright. We saw stage fright from the point guard, commonly known as Jesus. I think he did not perform the way he performed in Zimbabwe. Was that stage fright? I'm not too sure. So it's a whole lot of process, and like Lenga also mentioned that from preparation point of view, I think Magic did a tremendous job. They did a tremendous job. I think it's our local players able to compete at that level, and also the players that we bring in to beef up our team. Are they good enough to carry on the team? So those are the questions and concerns that, still running in my head. And me watching these games, I'm still struggling to find the answers.
Okay, Coach Harry, I know you've raised quite a lot of things, but let me come to Coach David. Coach David, you mentioned earlier on that we don't play enough league games to be able to give us the competitive edge that our friends have. We have players that fly all over from literally the other side of the continent just to come and play in this particular tournament, having played in a league elsewhere. And after Bal is done, they go again and play elsewhere. So we've got players that already whose bodies are used to this. But here's a question I have for you. And this is not just for you alone. All of you other coaches are going to speak to this. And by the way, Sipo will be joining us later on. He's just currently trying to settle and do the connections and be part of the conversation. But what have you done, having noticed, before you answer some of the things that have been raised? What have you done as a coach, having noticed that our league doesn't help us when it comes to Bal? What steps have you taken to address this?
Okay, Wendy. So when it comes to preparation, there's a lot that needs to be done. But the biggest challenge that we have, especially here in the southern region, is finances. Yeah, there's so much that we want to do, and there's so much as a coach you'd want to do, but you are limited because you do not have the finances. Yeah, you'd want to, once in a while you go to South Africa, play MBB or Cape Town Tigers. You'd want to fly to Angola. It need be, you can even play at your team and go camp maybe in Portugal or something. Those kind of things. But because we do not have the financial muscle, it's so tricky. So you are limited to what you have, and what we have is the local league, which we only play 22 games. And funny enough, in these 22 games will take us 8 months to finish, which doesn't even help. So on average, you're talking of maybe 3-4 games in 2 months, which for me, I feel to say doesn't give us the competitive edge when it comes to playing tournament basketball. Looking at where we're coming from as Material Magic, yeah, the first group stage that we played, we had the legs, we had the energy. But when it came to the Elite 16, players were pushed. But as you know, at one point, certain things will come, will start kicking in, especially if you do not have a recovery program. And this is the other aspect that we also need to start looking at, especially when it comes to basketball as clubs. We need to set up structures that are going to, give us this whole separation when it comes to coaching, nutrition, the physical aspect. Because here in Zambia at the moment, everything is done by the coach. Yeah, it's what you think is right, but is what you're thinking right correct for the players? When it comes to nutrition, when it comes to body recovery, yeah, we see on TV where we say, oh no, you need to sit in ice, you need to go to the gym. But are we really doing the correct things? Are we really experts? Because if you go out there, you find to say they have a physician, they have a nutritionist, they have a team doctor, they have somebody responsible for how somebody will stretch, somebody, how based on your body structure, how you need to, do your workouts, how you need to warm up, all those factors. So there's quite a lot that we need to do in Southern Africa for us to catch up. Because truth be told, Wendy, right now, the way FIBA has mapped the BAL, there's Southern, which is the bottom. There's Uganda, Kenya, Burundi, those are in the middle. And then there's a number one, which is Egypt. Those guys up there, Morocco. So at the end of the day, it shows to say, even FIBA has noticed to say, in the southern region, there's this. But there's so much that we can do as the southern region as well, so that we can just bridge this gap that we have. Because trust me, our friends are well equipped to a point where even when they are coming, you even see to say, oh, okay, we are lacking here, we are lacking there. So it's quite a lot that we need to do. And for me, I feel to say it all starts with us, and just the financial aspect to back what we want. We might have the vision as coaches, but we lack the financial backing, because we
Okay,
can you can't coach to look for
David,
finances. Yeah.
so David, you've talked about one important aspect. Sipo is with us. You're welcome, my brother. And there isn't so much that you've missed. I think we're just maybe 15 minutes into the conversation. But David, you've said the issue of the financing, and this is something that I know Sipo will not run away from. Even if you ask him something else, he'll still bring you back to money. So he will talk about it, whether we ask him or not. But David, you are on the floor. There were a lot of questions when people saw Material Magic play. Like, okay, what was really wrong? Why couldn't Material Magic also get players that we ended up seeing at the Elite 16? Would you confirm to everybody that that was the case?
Okay, so if you see these teams beefing up, I'll give you a simple example. Yeah, you'd want to get a player like Siwanyoni, but for you to get Siwanyoni for only 2 weeks, you will pay not less than $2,500. For a team, you are looking at you need 3 elite players. So on average, you need to have $10,000 for you to spare to bring in those players. So it's not something easy. Yeah. So it all just boils down to finances. Yeah. And what right now, we are getting players based on how much we have in our pocket. Yeah. Some of these players we can't afford them.
Okay, so obviously you've said something very, very important. It's the issue of the money. Whether we like it or not, the money aspect comes in. And I believe some of the answers are being provided for even as you are watching this particular episode of Off the Court. Now, the issue that I would like to ask Harry and Kobe, you guys have been to Bal. And this is what I asked David earlier on. What have you done to engage the, say, Midlands Basketball Association or the Zambia Basketball Federation to say, look, we qualify for these tournaments, we keep going there, and we don't produce the desired results? partly or maybe mainly because we don't have the money. But again, even when we don't have the money, we can compete favorably. We can give decent competition, but we fail also to give decent competition because of what has been highlighted. Have you guys done that, Harry?
Okay, we haven't been in contact with the association about it, but from my point of view, I would also question the quality of our league, also, and in as much as I want to try to avoid talking about the finances in this discussion because I know people will bring that up. I want to concentrate more on the quality of our local players because those are the ones that have a big portion in the roster for any BAL team. So we would cry about the number of games that we play, but also one would come and tell us to say, well, it's not only the league games that you need. You would actually organize friendly games, pick up games to cover for that. All the answers are there when you look at the number of games that we play, which, yes, we are complaining about that we play a few games in a season, which is well understood. Answers are there that we can take up friendly games. The real question is the level of our league, the competition of our league, is it enough for us to produce players who take up that spot in a BAL roster, 8 players spot in a BAL roster, to go out there and compete? That is my major question, and I can provide the answers also. It's because of the level of competition in our league that actually also has
But
an effect.
but Coach Harry,
Yes.
when you say the level of competition, I feel this is a shared blame because who is responsible for preparing players for the competition in our league? Isn't it you guys here? So if we are
Yes, sir.
producing players that are below par, should, as much as we are pointing at the players, as much as we are telling Sipo, you are not a good player, Sipo, we should also remember that we can also point to whoever is coaching Sipo, isn't it? Do we agree on that?
We do agree.
Wendy,
Eh, let's go, David. Yeah, let's go.
if I
Okay,
may come in,
Wendy, let me just chip in with what Harry is supposed to. You see, as a coach, there's just so much you can do. Yeah. Yes, we are responsible for preparing players to be at that level. But do players actually really want to be at that level? That's the biggest question. When do you play the game? Every time you wake up, you'd always set aside time for basketball. But can that be said to the now players? Yeah, because right now, left, right, and center, we keep begging players to come for practice. If you notice one thing, whichever team you go to, the only constant you're going to find at that team is the coach. The players, today you see this person, tomorrow you see another person, then you see another group. So it all boils down to the level of commitment. Yeah, because right now, trust me, the the kind of basketball being played is not as competitive because the players are lacking that drive, that personal drive to push themselves to get better. Because trust me, with the bringing of BAL, it should be a thing where right now, if I go to NAPSA, I need to find people working out. I go to Zamshu, I need to find people working out. But if you take a drive, 21 hours, courts are empty. No one is even bouncing the basketball. Yeah, so this is the kind of level of commitment that we are lacking from players. They lack that drive just to push themselves to get better.
Okay.
Thank you, David, for that.
Just,
Exactly,
just to add on what
exactly
Coach
what I
David
was
is saying.
driving to. Exactly what I
Okay.
was driving to.
Okay. So let me, before I bring in Sipo, I know Sipo is itching, but Kobe, let me just give you an opportunity as well. You wanted to add to what David
Yes,
was saying.
yes. I think as a coach, there's only so much that you can do. For us to get to a level where we're getting players so competitive, we need to duplicate that kind of competitiveness in our league. That means we need the players to be playing tough games almost every weekend and frequent. If we can have them play, for example, I would say the Pacers Magic kind of game. Every other day they are playing such games. You will find that the players are used to how they adapt in tough games, how they think, how they play in those tough games. But the way we are playing basketball now, today we'll play a weak team, so to say, an easy game. Then in the next 2, 3 weeks, that's when we play a tough game, something that challenges us. So the players can even go to sleep. They know, okay, the only game that we have is in 3, 4 weeks time. That's the only tough game that we have. So for us to get the players so competitive, we need to be playing games frequently. We need to be playing tough games frequently so that their level of competitiveness is always tested. Always tested. Then they would also be improving themselves.
Okay, interesting submission there from Kobe Sipo. Let me bring you in. Obviously, we appreciate those of you that are watching us and are interacting with us in the comment section. Please believe me, I am deliberately throwing what you're putting in there for everybody to be able to see. And these are valid submissions that we appreciate. And obviously, what Alison is saying, I totally agree. And I think going forward in the future, as we prepare for BAL, these are some of the things that we'll be looking at. But Sipo, you have been at this stage before. As an independent here, you're not a coach, you're not a player anymore, okay? But a person that had the privilege of watching, see the work that City Thunder have done, which later on we'll speak to. I just wanted to get your observation. What is it that you saw from the just ended BAL, that Magic two-part in? Sipo. Your microphone is mute, so just unmute it for me, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. So I was just saying that I don't even know where to start because guys are making very valid points. But so let's take a step back and look at it backwards. So we lost 83-82 to Fox basketball, which we beat convincingly when we went to Zimbabwe. So from a local talent perspective, in terms of players, if we remove the famous Jesus, we remove DC Jones. I don't know if there was any other foreign player, but I think if you remove those, like everybody else was local. Okay, so
No. We had Kwese, the Ghanaian. We had Luwak, the South Sudanese.
okay, but I watched the game, and I don't think they contributed significantly in comparison to say So Piri. So my argument is that, first of all, to say players are not competitive without defining what does competitiveness mean, it becomes a blaming conversation. It becomes a very debatable conversation because reflecting on the performance that we had, reflecting on the 4 seasons that we've played. I mean, Magic has gone, what, twice now? Then we had Mnali Suns before that. They didn't go past the first 32. And then obviously Unza Pacers at the time when we played in the first season, we didn't go past Elite 16. So even from a representative performance perspective, we have to be honest that maybe our level of play and our level of competitiveness has not yet caught up to how the other teams and how the other competitive leagues are actually playing, you know. So we lost to teams like Patriots. I know the game that we lost with Patriots, Mulenga was there in 2020, I think 2021, in the inaugural season. They play in a professional league, you know, quote and unquote professional league, meaning that all you do is you wake up, you go to work, and your vocation is really playing basketball, and you play basketball every now and then for maybe 7-8 months of a basketball season. Okay. Come to this season, if you look at all the other guys that we played against, Urunani has been champion for the last 2 seasons in Burundi, professional league, very small country, probably less of a bigger economy, less of an economy in comparison to Zambia, professional league. City Oilers from Uganda, professional league. So what I'm picking from there is that the systems that these countries have in terms of playing basketball, teaching basketball, running basketball programs, educating coaches about basketball, educating players about basketball, attracting diversity by bringing a mix of different players from different parts of the continent in playing basketball at that high level competitive level. Those systems are performing better than us. And we need to be very honest as coaches, as players, as administrators, as sponsors, fans, whatever category that you fall in, we need to accept that those countries are doing better than us. That's my first point and my biggest takeaway. Because Nairobi
Simple. Your
City
first
Thunder.
point is too long. Your first point is too long, Simple.
Come on. I mean, it's a conversation. You need a perspective. So I'm just giving a perspective as honest as it is, you know. So that's my
Okay,
first
okay,
point.
okay.
I'll keep
Okay,
my
okay,
next
okay.
point.
So go to the second. Go to the
Okay,
second,
so my second,
and then we'll bring on the coaches as well.
yeah, and then my second point is that I think the mentality of basketball players in different regions is very different. And I think that mentality is the difference in how players go for these very intense 1 week competitions in order to compete. In our time when we're playing, I mean, I've played with Coach David, played with Coach Kobe. Our biggest competition in the league, Zone 6, was playing against the Angolan teams. So you knew that, man, if I don't show up in that week, if I don't practice for the next 6 months, 7 months, whether it's shooting, whether it is being able to handle the ball, or whether it's the hustle, or whether being able to play, I am going to be blown out of the building. And what Bao has done is that it has created a different breed of players that have a totally different mentality when it comes to competition. And I think that in itself sets most of these players playing in these teams that go to the Elite 16 at a very high level in comparison to the background and probably the environments that we're playing in. That for me sticks out quite significantly in comparison to the experience that we've had in the last 1 week.
Okay, so we will definitely come back and possibly look at. You've mentioned something very important, Sipo, the issue to do with the system. And it is from that background that I was even challenging the coaches here to say, what have you done? You know, having gone to the competition, having experienced, you know, what our friends, the advancements that our friends have made in terms of organizing, administering, and just everything to do with basketball. I felt like it is also important that we start talking, you know, to our people that are responsible. For example, if it's the NBA, you know, the NBA also must be told the truth. Like, look, when we go to represent out there, we're representing you as well. What we've learned is ABCD. We would like to see this and that and that. I hope Milken is watching this, because when we start talking about this, I know my brother, and I hope I won't get arrested for this anyway. But um, Wilson J wrote something here, which I would like to
Wendy,
run by all of you. He says, quality is there. We can establish by now that Sopiri, AJ, Ogi are elites, and the best reinforcements could have been pumping the little dollars in them than getting Jesus. Okay? So I'll just leave it there. And I'm going to ask all of you to weigh in. Do you agree that at the moment, I don't want to categorically single performances. For me, Sopiri arguably did the best he could have done. At least there was something he gave. There was something he showed us at that stage. Harry, do you agree that we have elites in our league, as Wilson J believes? And should we pay them?
Okay, interesting. I want to break it down into two, okay? And there's they become elite at a certain stage, and they do not qualify to be elite at a certain stage, like we saw in the last Elite 16 competition that Material Magic took part. They were phenomenal in Zimbabwe. I think at that level, and in as much as we want to discuss all these issues, we must also mention here to say this is not just a problem with Zambian basketball. It's a regional problem that we have, apart from Angola in our region, okay? Maybe Angola have understood better about systems. That is why they run a professional league. Unlike Angola, all of us, Zimbabwe, Botswana, we run amateur leagues. And now we want to take those players to go and compete at a professional level. That is where we fall short. That is where the gap is. So I would say yes, okay? They are exceptional players. When we were in Zimbabwe, when there was a road to Bal, but we also saw that at the Elite 16 in Nairobi, their quality fell short because of the level of basketball that was showcased in Nairobi. So I would answer it in those two angles.
Bwana Harry, there's no, you don't have to be diplomatic here. Do we have elite players? You've explained, we heard the explanation, but tell us, do we have elite players in this country? Just be honest, because people need to know. Imagine if Suns has all the money and you qualify for the BAL and you go and get beautiful players, brilliant elite players that qualify you to the actual BAL. We still have people complaining, saying, no, they are getting foreigners. Team. We always hear these things. So let's just be honest. Do we have, sir, elite players here in this country?
The bitter truth, we don't have. We don't have. That's an honest opinion from me. We don't have
Wonderful.
elite players
Thank you.
to compete
So
at
let
that
me
level.
now,
We don't have.
David, do we have elite players in this country?
Wendy, it all depends which side of the coin you're looking at. Yeah, right now, in the minds of the people that come and watch basketball, because as we members say, umwana ashenda tashanyina okunaya. They see elite players. But when you go out there, you see the like of Boas, exceptional players when it comes to decision making. Yeah. You talk about centers like Majok. You see to say, okay, these people work on their games. But when it comes to Zambian standards, the Zambian league, not extending it to out there, yes, we do have elite players. But when we step outside the borders, trust me, we do not have elite players. Because you talk about the likes of John. You saw Jones, I think he's one player who's, I feel to say he's in his mid-30s. But when you see how he plays basketball, his level of IQ, you can see to say this person is an elite player. Yeah, starting with his decision making, how he runs the floor, how he plays with his teammates, how he scores the basketball. That's what defines an elite player. Here in Zambia, when you talk about elite players, you find to say the definition is different. So for me, that's why I keep saying to say it depends on how you define elite. But if you want to define elite when it comes to IQ, performance, decision making, everything, trust me, in Zambia we've got a lot of work, and we cannot say we have elite players. No.
Okay, interesting there, Coach Kobe. And as usual on the screen, I'm getting quite interesting thoughts. Tilo, congratulations, my brother. We saw that engagement. We are proud of you and we are grateful for everything that you're doing for the game of basketball. For those that do not know, Tilo is one of the, big artists that we have in the country, loves basketball, comes through and supports. So we appreciate you, my brother. Coach Kobe, do we have
Yes,
elite players?
I think for me, we have the potential. We don't have players that will call elite yet, no. The closest we'll come to getting elite players is what we are seeing now in the likes of Douglas Kanduru, the guys who are going out there and playing at a different level. Those guys are what we are now seeing to be somewhat becoming elite players. Locally, we do have the talent, but to get to that level, I feel it's not something we should only heap on clubs to try and change. This thing is bigger than any particular club that qualifies to an international outing like this. I feel like the federation itself, the guys in charge of basketball, need to take up certain measures so that we try and help the teams that are going out for international outings. What do I mean? For example, as Pacers, when we went out and came back, we never really officially sat down with the federation to put our points across in areas where we can improve the challenges that we had. We never did that. So, but we have had informal talks with the SG and the president, passing our sentiments in how we feel the game should change somehow to try and help the clubs that are going out there. Some of the areas that need change, or maybe the biggest area, is the sport itself has to be packaged in a sense that it starts attracting. It has to be packaged like a business where it starts attracting people or the corporate world out there to attach themselves to basket. When we start seeing this, that's when now we'll start making significant strides in trying to improve basket. Because, for example, Matero Magic, they could have gone to all kinds of sponsors out there to get funding, for them to get elite players and do all these other things. But how does that come in when, for example, they need more games for them to be ready to play? So that means that aspect of when we want a team to have more games, that aspect has to be dealt with by the federation making certain changes. Some of the things they can do is maybe increase the time that we play locally. If we are not increasing the number of games, let's say we play 12-minute quarter games, at least we start building our endurance, start building our our physicality in terms of people who say we need to practice more for us to play a 12-minute quarter game. So deliberately, the federation has to come in to help the clubs that are going out there. For us to start building elite players, the teams have to be playing elite games. They have to be playing tough games during the year. Before we even get to BAL, we need to be facing stiff competition, whether it will be locally or within the region, organizing friendlies and things like that. But all that also depends on how much money we can attract in basketball. So right now we don't have elite players. We don't have elite players. If we can package basketball in such a way that we are attracting the corporate world to attach themselves to basketball, then we'll have a lot of players going out there playing in other leagues in Europe, and then we'll start improving as a country in terms of getting players to that elite level.
Thank you very much, Kobe, for that submission. Sipo, there was a comment there from Tilo on the screen, I think earlier on I put it, where he was talking about the coach being under pressure. I don't know. Do you agree that the coach was under pressure, at that stage? And then as you respond, let me also pick on another comment which I find pretty interesting.
Why are you laughing and shaking your head?
This one. So Wilson stands on his grounds. He says, Harrison Banda, elite. Elijah Mbochu, elite. Sao Piri, elite. Pump into them and they will maximize to the Jones status. And I think there he meant to say, is it Rubeck? I think I should be Rubeck, if I'm not mistaken. So Sipo, maybe before you answer, Sipo, okay? But please, bear in mind, I want you to emphatically speak to this. Was the coach one under pressure? And do you feel that we should pump into our guys? And then when we talk about elite, okay, David earlier on spoke about a player like, who is this boy from Senegal? What's his name again? This boy from Senegal. Boassi. Exactly. So David spoke about Boassi. When you see Boassi play, either for Senegal, either for AS Douanes, either for, Urunani, you don't have to even think twice, okay, that this guy is not elite. You will know that here there's a player. And as they say, Sipo, you're a numbers guy. Numbers don't lie. If you look at this Boassi chap, he averaged, 28.9% from the time they went to the East Division up until they were playing the third and fourth game and concluded in Nairobi, Kenya. At no point did Boassi fail to hit double digits from the East Division all the way up to Nairobi, Kenya. So when we talk about elite, the numbers must be able to back you. And I hope Wilson here is listening. And I challenge Wilson to bring me the numbers of the players he has highlighted there. And let's do a comparison and define what elite is. Okay? Another interesting character, Sipo, that maybe people would want to know. Talk about a guy like this Ding chap. Your Ding chap. I know, Sipo, you support Nairobi Thunder because you're in Kenya right now.
I played with the boy. I played with the boy. He's
exactly.
pretty good. I played with the boy. Yeah.
So for me, Sipo, You are the numbers guy. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But the Ding boy, I think so far in that Nairobi tournament has the best numbers.
Yes,
Ding has
from
the
the
best
3-point
numbers.
field goal. From the 3-point
Exactly.
field goal, he had the best
Yes.
conversion rate
Right.
amongst everybody else in that group. So
Exactly.
uh,
That's Ding. If you look at Ding's shooting, 77% from the free throw. Talk about stage fright. It's not there. The guy will score. You foul him, he's scoring. There's nothing like stage fright. If you talk about, just general shooting from the field, over 65%, 66% from the 2-point, and you are again talking about over 64% from the field. Come on, guys. This is what we say when we mean elite. Now, Sipo, you tell me, was the coach under pressure? And do you think that Zambian players should be given money for them to start averaging numbers that look at least what I've just mentioned here?
okay, to answer it very bluntly, there's nothing that the coach would have done. And I know people are referring to that game against Urunani. Even if you put George on the sideline, you put whoever you want to put on the sideline, there's nothing anyone would have done. So, quite frankly, it was not about coach being under pressure. It's just one of those days when things are just not working out right, and players' performances is just off the table. I mean, guys, we made more than 40 turnovers the whole 40 minutes. 40 turnovers. I mean, if you take that from converted points, that's 80 baskets just from giving the ball to the opponent. So you can't say, how can you justify that people are turning over the ball 40 times, and that is the reason because the coach was under pressure. Coach doesn't play. Unfortunately, the coach gets blamed when we lose, but when we win, we look at the players. And in that particular instance, quite bluntly for us who were in the stands, there's nothing any coach would have done. I know David is shaking his head to this comment, but that's the honest truth. Secondly, let me give it in terms of context, because I think most people are not traveling within the region and not seeing the dynamics of how basketball is in Africa. In Kenya, maybe the only difference between what we have in Kenya and what we have in Zambia is that there's more competition in terms of numbers as compared to us. Okay, and I think last time when we did the analysis, I was giving these numbers. Nairobi alone, as a province, has more than 120 teams playing in 4 different divisions: Premier League, Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. So from a numbers perspective and the intensity you get from competition, you can see that you have more people that are vying to be in the Premier League as opposed to our system where we have, give or take, I think in the NBA we have more or less than 30 teams if you combine League A, League B, and the Women's League. Okay, so competition-wise, we are still not churning the numbers that we should have in comparison to some of these other countries. Okay, but that does not mean the systems are any significantly different from us. You understand? The biggest numbers, and I'm just using Nairobi because that's where we play this game. Most of the teams that are in the top tier divisions are college-based or university-based teams that play in structured leagues. So that's not any different from how we have our system. If you look at how it is in NBA, most people that are playing are guys that either are going to college, going to university, playing the game, but half the time, it's supporting your academic program so that you can actually make a life out of yourself. You understand? Now, the context here is that with Nairobi City Thunder, it has been a 3-year project where they literally decided, listen, as KBF, this is your league, you have the way you run things, but for us, we're going to do things differently. Okay? We're going to change our own structure, we're going to have administration, and we're going to have full-time people that are only thinking of playing basketball. Not you saying, I will play for Equity. Equity is one of the biggest teams here in Nairobi, in Kenya. They play in the Division 1, in the Premier League, okay? So they have employees that are staff of employees, staff of the bank, but, they only work, and then after the work, they have to go to practice. You understand? So you see that there's a lot of similarities between systems here, systems in Tanzania. Malawi is the same, Zimbabwe is the same, Zambia is the same. The only difference is when you come to these French countries where they have some system where people have a dedicated vocation and time just to play their craft. Okay, so it's a bit unfair for us to say we don't have elite players in Zambia, and yet, guys, Magic got to the Elite 16. You understand? It is 16 of the best clubs in the continent of Africa out of 55 different states. So we were one of those that were in the 16, irrespective of the performance that we had. Yes, we had a bad performance, dismal performance. You can have all these reasons. But to say we don't have elite players and yet we go to the Elite 16, it's a bit of a misnomer in terms of making that statement.
Okay, so what do we have?
So to say we do have Elite 16, we do have elite players in our country. Okay, we do have elite players in our country. If you remove, I could argue and say, okay, so if you removed Harrison Banda, okay, and look at his stats from the final 32 to the Elite 16, if you remove him from Bravehearts, do you think they would have gotten to this stage?
No chance.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is that we can't look at it from a very isolated situation and then put a blanket statement and say we don't have elite players. Okay, I honestly think that collectively, all of us, one of the biggest things that we're not speaking to our own basketball system in Zambia is that we don't have basketball programs designed to deliberately develop elite basketball players. That is honestly what I think is something we are not speaking very honestly about it. We're not transforming our own individual institutions where we come from, because developing a basketball player to an elite level, it all boils down to a program. You understand? Now, obviously, the success of that program is dependent on many factors. And I've given you an example, okay? Nairobi City Thunder has been a 3-year project to get to this stage. And believe me, if they didn't get Majok, if they didn't get Haruni, if they didn't get Igwebo, the Nigerian guy who's played in the NBA G League, all of these guys have played at the toppest league in this on this continent. Do you think they would have had the chances to beat, for example, Urunani, or they would have beaten Creole from Cape Verde? If the answer to that is no, then we have to go back and revisit the statement that we're making about our own teams that are coming from Zambia. So the basketball programs has to really speak about what are we trying to build. If we're only building teams where coaches are only focused on the next game that they're going to win because they want to be the number one, okay? So you forget about building long-term programs for players. That's the result that we're going to get. We only get to Elite 16, we compete, we come back, and we have analysis like this. So that simple is something that we need to have an honest conversation about.
Before we go back to the coaches and get their thoughts on this, you've mentioned something very important, and I was praying that this comes up. Okay, the issue of developing basketball programs that would ultimately produce elite players. Very, very important. That I will not take away from you. But going by what I'm seeing in the comment section here, there's an argument in the comment section that we need to incentivize our players. Okay. And you also highlighted to say professional teams have people that are dedicated to their craft.
Correct.
So I want us to clarify this, okay? So that people understand. You gave a balanced view. We need to develop strong programs that will produce elite players. But others just believe that all we need is to pay these players. Let's set the record straight. Do we just need to pay these players? And are you telling me they are going to give me numbers like the BAL leading scorer, Chris Marcus Crawford?
I'm not, like, to be honest, I don't like the way Crawford plays.
I know. We're not talking about his play. Don't go there. Don't go there.
I don't like the way Crawford plays. But here's the thing. Putting an incentive system that is designed to deliberately have people focused on basketball is a game changer, right? But ultimately, it's also not the silver bullet, because you might be pumping money into very useless assets. Okay, I know I'm going to get castigated on this point, but that's the honest truth. Okay, if you look at, if I use the comparison of Nairobi City Thunder, man, they have a roster of 30 solid players. 30 solid players that are all on a payroll, and this is an elite crop of the best players in Kenya. We're talking about a country that has more than 1,200 basketball teams playing in 47 different countries, in 47 different counties. So you can't just say, oh, just throw money and it's gonna do magic. It's like the same way people say, oh, just look for a corporate sponsor. Man, you know, Zambif could come and give NBA 3 million kwacha, and you think that throwing 3 million kwacha is gonna change the game. It won't. If you have poor quality and you have quality of players that are not at the continental stage, because that's the benchmark. The benchmark is not national championships. The benchmark is not Braveheart. The benchmark is not MBB. The benchmark is Petro de Luanda, Al Ahly, Urunani, AS Douane. All these elite teams that are in the top 6 of the BAL Basketball League. That's our benchmark. So throwing money and just saying, okay, just pour money, it's going to work, is not a silver bullet, in my opinion. You have to put money in very useful and valuable assets that are really giving us convincing evidence that these are elite players. And when they go on the continental stage, man, you put a little bit more on them, they'll give you miracles. That's what I think.
Interesting there now, Coach David and Coach Mule. Gentlemen, kindly look at the screen. There's a very good message for you there. Coach Harry, also, you're not spared from this one. So, Tilo the Baddest, this happens in our league. So, Tilo earlier on was talking about, you know, the whole situation of Ogi not being put on the team and other players and everybody else and things like that. So, now they're saying that they've seen Magic do this in the league, including Kings. So I want you guys to respond to this, because, you know, sometimes people never have opportunities to ask you firsthand why you do these things that you do. Why do you bench people and stick to some players that we, the crowd, feel these ones can't help us? Coach David, I don't know where Mule is, but I've gone to look for him.
Hey, okay, Wendy. I've been reading this comment by Tilo, yeah, and I'll respond to this message by saying sometimes winning is losing. Yeah, there are a lot of things that fans really understand what goes on in teams. Yeah, their players. The only relationship or the only thing that you know about that player is about the game that he plays. Hey,
Okay.
yeah. Do you? Yeah. So there are a lot of factors that will lead to a player being benched. Yeah. We have players, good players. Yeah. But you find to say this player only shows up for practice on Thursday or maybe Friday, and you have a game on Saturday. Yeah. As a coach, if your main aim is to win, yes, you're going to play that player. But if a team lives on discipline, at times you sacrifice your best player and say, I'm not going to play you today because you are not sticking to the rules of the team. Yeah, that's why you see all these things happening where a player is benched. Yeah, for those that players like Tilo, yeah, I would ask them to say, do you really understand why a coach makes subs or would sit down a player? There are things like a coach will tell you to say, when you step on the floor, I want you to go guard Wendy. And then the first thing you do as a player, you go and guard Coach Harry. That's an automatic sub. I'll sit you on the bench because you're not listening. You are a good player, but you're not listening. At that point, when it comes to my game plan, you're not there. Yeah. And for me to teach you to say, you are making mistakes, I'll paint you. So that next time when you go in, you know what you need to do. Yeah. There are players that are deserving to play. They'll show up from Monday to Friday. Why should I prioritize winning when I'm trying to teach something? I'm trying to teach discipline. Yeah, so there's a lot that goes on that people in the stands don't understand. And the only way they would understand is by being part of what? The organization itself. When you come to Magic, if there's something that we thrive on is discipline. Yeah. You might be a very good player, but if you do not have the discipline, you won't play at Magic. So for me to answer Tilo's question or concern, I would just say there's a lot that you need to understand. And for us coaches, we base our players' playtime based on what we think is right at that particular time, not what the fans want. Yeah. Because if we are all about pleasing the fans, would do what you guys are saying to say, oh no, why is that player playing? Why is not gonna? But there are other factors that you guys need to understand. So there's a lot that goes on. But yeah, I've been where Tilo is until I
Uh,
started coaching. That's when I understood to say, oh, okay, this is what happened.
okay, interesting. Coach Harry, let's get to hear from you. Why do you stick to Muzo when you know that Bones has all that it takes to give you everything?
Okay, so like Coach David has said, there is a lot that the fans that would see and what the coaches sees. And the most important thing that we always miss out are the statistics. If we had the statistics, maybe fans would understand why certain players sit on the bench. Okay, and like the previous season, I took a lot of time to myself to look at different teams, and I'll tell you today to say most teams only have 2 to 3 players who average double digits week in, week out. And if you could see the number of players that are below 8 points and that are below 5 points, maybe the fans would understand why coaches decide to sit certain players. Okay? The absence of statistics are the reasons why we have all these debates. Efficiency levels. Half the time we have a player playing 20 minutes with little efficiency. Okay? So those are some of the reasons why we coaches bench these players. Now, the main issue also from the comments section that I've picked up is the issue of not playing our local players to the BAL tournaments. I think that has been the major issue, and that's what people are talking about on their Facebook. Why not Augustine making the team? Why not playing this player? Okay, we had the same things when we went for BAL. Certain players didn't have the minutes, and yes, we were crucified for that as coaches. Now, here's the thing, and also it goes back to the question, elite players. It's, like, and we are not, I must also mention here that we are not downplaying our local players. We appreciate their efforts and they make the team because we feel they are good enough. Now, it's like a product. When you make a product for the local market, it can sell, but you need to improve it to take it to sell at an international market. It's exactly what we are doing. And, I appreciate the fact that despite the huge costs attached to participating in BAL, the teams in this country have always showed up, and now we are able to identify to say, okay, now we don't have elite players. We qualified to Elite 16, and we thought our players were good enough. We went to Elite 16 and discovered to say, oh, we actually don't have elite players compared to the other teams that actually qualified in the tournament. And it's the same thing. It's not about downplaying our local players or anything. It's about going out there to learn and coming back and say, how do we improve our products? How do we improve on our players? That is the whole point here. So at that level, really, we need to develop players. And all these factors of, yes, we need a professional league, those are valid points. Okay, all those are indicators that can actually lead us to have such elite players. But, well, not to drive away from the point and the question raised, we bench players based on performance. And like I said, the absence of statistics are the reason for this debate. People will tell you that men and women will lie, especially men, but numbers will never lie. If we had statistics, we would actually tell to say most players average 5 points. And the question now would take back to the fans is, should me, the coach, play that favorite fans player 40 minutes or 30 minutes?
Okay. Thank you, Coach Harry. And, we can go on and talk basketball because there's a whole lot that needs to be said when it comes to the game of basketball. But we have to keep in mind that today is only a Wednesday. People are working tomorrow. These coaches were working during the day, we're coaching this evening, have to go back home and prepare and do all these things. So as we get to wrap up our conversation, obviously, the critical question, I love what All Star Academy has said that, we need to start with the grassroots programs, which is agreeing with what was said earlier on about creating programs that would produce the kind of players that we need. And we have to be looking at, 2030 and not just players that will help us win a championship and that's it. But we have to be long term in our thinking. So, Coach David, before I go to Sipo, I would want to hear from you. When we talk about creating programs, whose responsibility should this be? Are we looking at NBA, the federation, or the clubs themselves can also, at their level, start doing what is required to be able to create and structure programs that would produce the kind of players and the kind of quality basketball that we're looking for?
Wendy, on this one, it's a collective effort. Yeah, but at the end of the day, we need someone to oversee this whole program, because what I've noticed with most programs that we have, yes, we have programs, academies here, that people are running, and but the question comes in: are the very programs doing what we expect them to do? Are they teaching the right things? So we need someone to oversee all this. Yeah. Right now, truth be told, basketball in Zambia has no identity. Yeah. So this is something that we need to get back and say, what's our identity? And start teaching it from there. Start building the grassroots basketball like it was back in the days. Yeah, I remember we used to have programs where the very players in the league would go and coach schools basketball, and then those very teams would compete. There will be a league, schools league, and that's where now you start identifying talent. And so at the end of the day, what you're being taught at club level, you're taking it to the grassroots. Yeah, and you have people overseeing, the people that are sending you to coach. They'll oversee, they'll be teaching you what you need to go impact in those upcoming players. So that was the structure that was there then. Yeah, so this is something that we need to start looking at, because right now, when we go, especially when it comes to the females, they are lacking the basic fundamentals of basketball, because where they're coming from. No, okay, no, let me just say the females. Most players, when they come and join a team, they'll give you a resume and say, no, I've played for this team, I've played for this team, I've played for this team. But when you tell them to just do a simple left layup, they have no idea of how to do a left layup. Now you look at somebody's resume, played for 6 teams. I was in under 12, under 10, under whatever, but can't make a left layup. So basically, what is what we are teaching out there, the correct things. This is where we need to start from. We need to create a structure for all these developmental programs. We need to have an overseer, people to coach, to train these coaches on the fundamentals. When it comes to skill, when it comes to everything, they need to be taught before they can teach. It's not just waking up today because Wendy today you feel to say, okay, fine, there's an opportunity by FIBA. They are looking for people with these kids and all that kind of thing. There's an opportunity to make money, to get funding. So Wendy today you wake up today and say, oh no, I've got an academy. Let me form an academy. I start coaching kids. I start doing no. And this is what we're having in Zambia. We have so many academies coming in, but are they teaching the right things? That's the question that needs to be answered and needs to be looked into for us to say, okay, guys, we are actually, we have a structure that's going to help our kids develop. So this is something that we need to start. We need a structure, first of all. Then,
okay, so Coach David, I want to come back to you. So now go to your closing remarks so that we can try and wrap up.
Okay, I just want to commend you, Wendy, for the work that you're doing, especially when it comes to basketball. Yeah, it's such programs that actually very, very important. And to everybody that supported Material Magic, I just want to appreciate each and every person. It's because of you Material Magic is there. And it's not the last time. We as Matero Magic will definitely improve based on what we've learned out there. And we just want to assure the fans to say we appreciate their efforts. And we look forward to the next time we get to represent the nation at that level. And we definitely promise to, do better. We figured out. So the next step now is the Elite 16. Yeah, we've taken a few pointers here and there, and planning starts now. So for now, I just want to appreciate everybody. Okay.
Sorry, my microphone was muted over there. But Coach Harry, I was saying, we appreciate Coach David for that. And coming to you as we get to wrap up and conclude our conversation this evening, what are your thoughts? What are your final thoughts on this important topic that we're looking at this evening?
Yes, thanks, Winston, for this discussion. Very fruitful, a lot to take home with. And also, I want to salute the Material Magic for participating and representing us in the Elite 16. We appreciate you, and we still learning as a country. Also, to appreciate you, Winston, for this wonderful program that platform to allow us to share knowledge, experiences, to grow the sport that we love, basketball. And also my closing remarks on the structures and the grassroots. My few words are that we need money in basketball for structures to survive, for grassroots basketball to survive. We need money. We need to look at basketball as a business. The world has evolved. If we are to improve standards, we need to move away from voluntary work. Those are my last remarks. Your microphone, Wendy.
Sorry. I'm just laughing at what is happening in the comment section here. There's a whole lot. But anyway, I think we should have a part 2 for this conversation and just try and exhaust. But Sipo, your closing remarks. Obviously, there's a whole lot that has been discussed this evening. And, we've touched on so many areas at the end of the day. But basically, what is your summation when it comes to the gist of what we're talking about or what is coming out of our interactions this evening? I think your microphone, just check your microphone again.
Thanks for that, Winston. I think whenever there's failure, it's very easy to be critical, and certainly it's justified why we need to be critical when we have a team like Magic, representing all of us, because we obviously are behind them. And yes, we have to accept that there was failure on our part, all of us collectively, for some of us who were in the stands. But before we can conclude that there are no elite players in our country, we need to really reflect what that means, because I understand we have Douglas that is playing pro, a guy who's probably not played basketball for more than 10 years. So to put a blanket statement that our country does not have elite players, it's a bit unfair, but again, warranted. Everybody else has their own opinion. Two very important points for me is that, number one, basketball has changed. and it's a great opportunity for any basketball player in our country to excel and to make a living out of it. So it doesn't matter how difficult of a background you come from. It doesn't matter your current state where you are in life. If you have a talent, you have the right mindset, you have the right people to support you and to teach you the game the right way, there's a very big opportunity out there. Key example, I'm sure you guys might have seen some of the players on the Nairobi City Thunders. Some of these kids came from the slums, guys. You know, and in this country, when you talk about slums, they are real slums. Probability of making it in life is probably very, very low. But it's an encouragement that every basketball player out there that has a talent and you have an opportunity to work at your craft, the structure of how this competition is being run at the level of the BAL offers everybody else an opportunity. So don't waste it. Don't get too ahead of yourself. Don't get too big-headed when we are in NASDAQ. There's a bigger continental stage where you have the opportunity to showcase your talent to 1 billion people. Lastly, other than thanking you, Wendy, you know, we continue to have these interactions. I've promised you to try and get Colin in the next call so that we can try and get some pointers on how they've run their model as Nairobi City Thunder. But I think as a basketball community, I understand that we do have our own interests from the respective institutions that we come from. But as a community, we also hold a collective responsibility other than being critical or other than being critics, to also have honest conversations that are uncomfortable, that are transforming, shape-shifting, and we can do something to change the course of how we want to see basketball being played, especially when we get to qualify in the last 16 stage of the Basketball Africa League. In the case that we've had Magic representing us in the last 2 seasons. So let's not be shy. Let's all sit in the same room. Let's all collaborate. I know we all have our own individual camps, but we need to remember we're a community, and as a country, we can be divided, but at the end of the day, it's not going to take us anywhere. You understand? If there are opportunities to have export talent that we can take out there, you know, increase the number of people that are getting that kind of exposure. You know, you shouldn't just be in your own corner and think, you know, you can't really work with Harry, you can't work with Wendy, you can't work with Ellen to make things happen for talent out there. At the end of the day, we're just going to be having these conversations and being critical, and the game is not moving, you know, as a country. And we can see how other countries have just decided to look past their differences, their own little camps, and to become more of a community in order to move the game forward and make themselves better in the long run. So appreciate it to you, Wendy, appreciate it to Coach, appreciate it to a lot of the guys that participated. And those are just my closing remarks for today's session.
Okay, so there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We've had a very fruitful conversation. And of course, we're just looking at the just ended Elite 16. But at the same time, I think Sipo has stolen much of my, you know, what I prepared as my closing remarks, you know, because Sipo said something very, very important, you know, the need to always have honest and open conversations that are not vindictive, that, you know, don't seem to point or blame at anybody, but looking at the problem and exploring the solutions at the end of the day. And I think I've always mentioned that this is the whole purpose of me doing this, because at the end of the day, we need to be comfortable enough to talk to each other about the problems that we're seeing and how we can solve those problems. And to you, Coach Harry, thank you very much for, you know, coming. It's not an easy thing, guys. You know, not everybody's like Sipo, you know, who can share stuff, you know, who can teach stuff, you know. And I think this guy one day will be a lecturer. I won't be surprised, you know. But Coach Harry, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming through. I mean, you could have had a million things that you've been attending to, but you decided to come. And by the way, those of you that do not know, this man will be writing an exam on Friday. And here he is late night talking to us. It demonstrates the passion and the love that he has for the game. And believe me, every person that comes on this platform to interact with everybody shows you some of the important traits that I believe a leader should have. They are open enough to come. They're humble enough to be criticized, to listen to you, and to be able to go back and see which areas they can improve on. So I always respect people that come here. It's easy for Sipo to be in Nairobi, Kenya, and be writing long paragraph criticizing Zambian basketball and the wrong things that we're doing. But instead, he doesn't do that. He comes here, we talk, we see what can be done, we share knowledge, because we want to improve Zambian basketball. And you heard it for yourself. Next time you see me talk to the person behind the brains that have transformed the Nairobi City Thunder, just know that it is Sipo who has done it. That is how much people are willing and committed to be able to help us learn and see how best we can better our game. You can see there's a dark screen over there. That is Coach David trying to make his way home. Okay, he's not even yet home. I had to tell him to say, look, after practice, please stay behind. Come to this program. Let's have a conversation. And it's not easy. Okay, Magic is from losing at the Elite 16. He could have refused. He could have said, but here he was talking to us, you know, taking the hit, getting the difficult questions. And at the end of the day, that is what we want to see. You know, the goal is to grow basketball and not to just have those side pocket meetings and things like, no, but to have honest conversations that from here can be translated into policy, and then we can begin to see a change. So gentlemen, thank you very much once again for coming through this evening. And some people were texting me that they would like us to continue with this conversation. So, I mean, here you are. Me, I'm willing. So it's up to you guys to agree so that we can do this again, because people still have stuff for you. But for me, Winston, it's good night and see you, everybody. And to those of you that were active in our comment section, Alison, you know, Wilson, Ellen, Shasha, everybody else, you know, Spo, whoever, everybody else that was in the comment section, please, thank you very much for coming through and for making this interactive and for sharing your thoughts. They are valuable, they are important as well. So good night and see you next time.